Comprehensive Martial Arts World. Who are the leaders of Taoism, Quanzhen, Wudang, or Longhu Mountain? Who is the orthodox Shaolin in the north and south? The Beggar's sect is divided into the west and east, and to whom should the dog-beating stick belong? Is Dongfang Bubai, who loves embroidery, a man or a woman? Xiaofeng, Ximen Chuixue, and Zhuo Bufan are all known as sword gods. Who is the true sword god? Which is stronger or weaker between sword immortal Yi Gucheng and sword demon Yen 13? These things, these people, are all in this chaotic world, all in our world. Keywords of the novel. Comprehensive martial arts. Our Jianghu without pop-ups, comprehensive martial arts. Our Jianghu complete collection download, comprehensive martial arts. Our Jianghu latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Quanzhen abandoning the apprentice. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Quanzhen abandoning the apprentice at the end of spring. Great Song Dynasty, north of the Yangtze River. The strong wind howled, and the night sky was filled with scattered snowflakes. The white shore was stained with dazzling blood at some point. Jishuan, go with senior brother. Senior brother will plead with the head teacher to save your life. Zhao, don't put on a look of heartbreak, you're disgusting. Zhao Zijing's expression froze, and his fingers holding the sword turned slightly white. Senior brother, don't waste your breath. Let junior brother come. Then I'll trouble junior brother Shen. Senior brother Zhao's words are heavy. Shen Jifan bowed back and looked at the young man who was forced into a dead corner, shouting angrily, Lin Jishuan, you slaughtered your fellow disciples, rebelled against the sect, and now there is no way to escape. If you don't hesitate, capture me. What nonsense, Lin Jishuan. I don't have such a bad name for Longpeng. You stinky Taoists want to catch me alive, in the next life, Longpeng laughed heartily and strode back towards the big river behind him. Remember, if I, Longpeng, survive, I will surely kill Chongyang Palace one day and stir up your Quanzhen sect. Pounce, water splashed and was instantly engulfed by the surging river. So. Did he just jump down like this? Shen Jifan widened his eyes and quickly stepped forward to investigate. He looked at the turbulent black river and felt a headache. Senior brother, what should we do now? The leader instructed us to take this little demon back and release it. Besides, this kid is still a person sent from the ancient tomb. If. Junior brother. Zhao Zijing raised his voice and looked left and right, be cautious. Shen Jifan paused for a moment and nodded thoughtfully, what should we do now, senior brother? Zhao Zijing's expression was cold as he turned his back and said in a cold voice, after all, we are from the same family. Whether we live or die, we must have an explanation. Shen Jifan immediately realized and turned to look at the crowd behind him. Disciples, you must see people in life and corpses in death. Yes. The lower reaches of the Yuanjiang River. Cough. Cough. In a fit of coughing, Longpeng suddenly woke up and instinctively put on an airs, alert to the surroundings. Jia, the sound of pushing the door rang, and a famous girl dressed in green and with fair cheeks walked in carrying a basin of water. Hey! Are you awake? Longpeng's thoughts are currently chaotic and not very clear. He just replied, I'm awake. Seeing him so cold, Lulan felt a bit hesitant and said, my name is Lulan, what's your name? Longpeng slowly regained his composure, pondered for a moment, and arched his hand, saying, I am moving in the forest. People from Fuzhou have been rescued by the girl this time. Lin is extremely grateful and will definitely repay me in the future. The little girl's cheeks turned slightly red and she waved her hands repeatedly, you can't be counted as the one I saved. There's also Daddy, Brother Adeo, and the others. Thank you for reminding Miss Lu, but I don't know when this ship will dock. Lin has something important to attend to. You don't need to be so polite, just call me Xiaolin. Perhaps facing Longpeng feels a bit uncomfortable. The little girl's ears turned red and she said, we are still on the Yuanjiang River now. If we dock, it may take some time. Yuanjiang murmured a few sentences in a low voice. Longpeng looked out the window at the rippling blue waves of the river, feeling his shackles lifted and couldn't help but take a long sigh of relief. Brother Lin, the doctor said that your injuries are not minor and you need more rest. I won't disturb you anymore. Lulan put down the water basin and ran towards the door in a slightly panicked manner. Just as one foot stepped out, it stopped again. Well. The weather has been cool lately, so we should wear more to avoid getting caught in the cold. Longpeng was slightly stunned, only to realize that he was naked and smiled in silence. Outside the door. Did the girl wake up? Girl, why are you blushing like a monkey's butt? Is it difficult for that kid to? Dad, what are you talking nonsense about? Lu Lan stomped her feet and ran away. The old man Lu was smoking a dry cigarette and said softly, a woman cannot stay. The footsteps outside the door walked away. Longpeng pursed his lips, sat cross-legged, closed his eyes, and wanted to heal his wounds. Longpeng's face turned ugly as he opened his eyes. Zongdanshan was injured, and most of his internal strength dissipated on its own. Was it because of Qiu Chuji's palm? Perhaps due to the memory of the past life. Longpeng was foolish when he was young, and by the time he returned to normal, he had wasted more than 10 years. Fortunately, his talent is excellent, but in just 5 or 6 years, he has mastered several extraordinary scriptures and is also at the level of a first-class expert in the martial arts world. But now it's empty for a moment. Even in his 2 lifetimes, he couldn't help feeling dejected, but it was only for a moment. Practicing is also cultivating the mind, he is not so fragile. Sitting quietly on the bed, Longpeng's thoughts surged in his mind. This world. Based on his previous life, it should be considered a mixed world of martial arts. Qiao, the leader of the East Beggars sect, is in charge of it, Sanfengzhenren, who has been in seclusion for 30 years, the Eastern sect leader of Haimu Cliff, Yi Jianxian, who came from the west with 1 sword, the unscrupulous Handsome who painstakingly revived the Tang dynasty. They are all drawn into the world of rivers and lakes. After a long sigh of relief, Longpeng's thoughts settled slightly and he murmured, Dali Wuliang Mountain. A few days later. Lu Laohan held a food table and pushed the door open, saying, Brother Lin, Miss Xiaolan can't come if she's busy. The old man came to bring you some food and 2 clothes to change. Although they are old clothes, they have all been washed clean. Don't mind. Uncle Lu's words are too heavy. By the way, it's probably going to dock in a few days. Where are you planning to go next, Brother Lin? Said Lu with a simple and honest smile. Where are you going? Longpeng smiled and replied in a deep voice, I met the water bandits this time. Lin was lucky enough not to die, so naturally I still have to go home. A few days ago. Faced with Lu Leiahan's temptation, Longpeng casually fabricated an identity for himself. Although there is a hidden intention, it can still be considered as good for them. So. After hesitating for a moment, Lu Laohan poured himself a glass of wine and said, I've been watching these days and I think Xiaolan's girl is quite interested in you. I don't know what you mean. Longpeng was taken aback for a moment and said, I am still young and have no intention of dealing with men or women. I hope you can understand. Don't you even consider it. I understand. Sigh. Taking a deep glance at Longpeng, Lu Laohan stood up and said, I'll just casually mention it, old man. Don't worry about it either. It's getting late, so I won't disturb your rest. Lu Laohan left smoking a dry cigarette, and the room returned to quiet, leaving only Longpeng to eat alone. Not long. With a loud bang, the less sturdy wooden door was kicked open, and a strong man with slightly black skin and an angry face rushed in with two sailors. Brother Adeo came to find Lin, what's the point? Long Peng's expression was calm, without any ripples, and he poured a bowl of wine and pushed it over. You little white-faced, can you call Brother Adeo? Long Peng didn't get angry either. He smiled and looked up at Dao, so, I wonder if Brother Dao has any guidance. I'll ask you, why did you say that just now? Xiaolan, that's not good. Observing his expression, Long Peng felt a sense of helplessness in his heart. There's no reason, it's just that I don't want to. Upon hearing this, Dao slammed the table and pulled out his small knife from his waist, angrily saying, what does it mean to have no reason? You must give a reason today. Good food, such a waste, it's really a pity. Looking at the food falling on the ground, Long Peng shook his head and stood up, let's be more cheerful and have a fight. Dao looked up and down at Long Peng and said, you said that. If you lose later, don't say I'll take advantage of your critical illness. It should be called taking advantage of someone's danger. Dao choked and inserted his short knife into the table, angrily shouting, stop talking nonsense and punch me. There will be 2 scenarios, be cautious when entering. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Chilian Ferry. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Chilian Ferry today. The sunshine is bright and the sky is clear for thousands of miles. Long Peng stood on the deck, looking at the riverbank dock not far away. Finally, it's time to dock. Brother Lin, I heard my dad say, are you going back to Fuzhou? I really need to go back. Lulan pursed her lips and whispered, so. Will you still come to Yuanjiang in the future? Long Peng smiled, his laughter very clear. Naturally, I will. Lu Lan's eyes lit up slightly. Brother Lin, next time you come to Yuanjiang, remember to come find me. Let's go play together. This. Long Peng never easily promises, he just said, if I have free time, I will consider it. Lin, please wait a moment. I have something for you. The little girl nodded contentedly, her eyes shining brightly, and hurriedly ran towards the cabin. Long Peng was slightly surprised and immediately noticed a slight vibration in the hull, slowly stopping. Hey, who is that? Seeing Dao walking with a limp, Long Peng felt a bit embarrassed and felt that he should have taken it lightly that day. After all, it is also a life-saving benefactor. Brother Dao, what can I teach you? Adeo rolled his eyes and handed over the package, this is what Uncle Lu asked me to give to you. He said we should get together and part ways. After Mr. Wu's ship unloads the goods ahead, it will be our turn. You should get off the ship quickly and don't let this fuss happen. It's annoying to see you. As Adao spoke, he touched the corner of his bruised eyes, feeling even more unhappy in his heart. Long Peng pursed his lips and was about to speak when he saw the ship ahead burning with flames, and a piece of canvas burning with flames, hitting Dao. Get out of here. What? Before Dao could react, he was pushed aside, and the place where he had just stood had already caught fire, causing him to break out in a cold sweat. What is love in the world, teaching life and death to be mutually agreed upon? Double flying passengers from all over the world, old wings have experienced several cold and hot seasons. Joy and joy, the bitterness of parting, where there are even more foolish children. Accompanied by touching and mournful ballads, the purple-robed Taoist appeared on the towering mast. That Taoist nun has a very beautiful appearance, looking only 20 years old. She has apricot eyes and peach cheeks, delicate skin, and a soft voice. She was originally an extremely beautiful person, but now her face is full of fierce and intimidating expressions. Li Macho. Long Peng raised his head and looked at her on the mast, shaking his mind with a complex expression. Seemingly puzzled, yet also suddenly realized. Adeo got up in shock and looked at Long Peng with a complicated expression, shouting, waters flowing, waters flowing. It's so noisy. Li Macho raised his eyebrows horizontally, waved his Taoist robe, and the fireworks, wrapped in true energy, pressed towards Dao. The grace of saving lives can be considered ended. Kicking out the wooden barrel to stop the fireworks, Longpeng lifted his head and said in a loud voice, "Senior sister, haven't seen you for a long time. How have you been lately?" Li Macho's delicate body stiffened slightly, and his Taoist robe danced lightly, gracefully landing on the ground. He stared at Longpeng with suspicion and looked up and down. "Little junior brother." "It's me." Longpeng stroked his hair, revealing his cheeks and smiling gently. "Is it really you? Nature is really me. Why did you come to Jiangnan without staying in the ancient tomb? How did you, like my senior sister, fall in love with the colorful world outside and become a traitor to the ancient tomb sect?" Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Li Macho smiled sarcastically, with a bright smile, some glaring, some sorrowful. When she calmed down a bit, Longpeng spoke up and said, "Senior sister, why don't we talk to another place? After all, it's been so long since we last met. Naturally, we need to have a good conversation. After senior sister finishes dealing with these annoying things, we can reminisce about our past together." The sailor boatman on the ship was trembling with fear, and Longpeng let out a soft sigh. "Why bother killing innocent people, senior sister? Why, you also want to meddle in my affairs?" Longpeng shook his head and lowered the sail embroidered with the character Yuan. "Senior sister's affairs, junior brother doesn't want to care, it's just that the people on this ship have shown kindness to junior brother. Being a good person. Ultimately, we need to know how to repay kindness. Hee hee." Li Macho leaned half against the rudder on the deck, holding her fragrant cheeks in her hand, playfully laughing. "Junior brother's expression is so bad. I think there might be some injuries on your body, so I'm not afraid of senior sister brushing the dust. I'll send you back to the west." As he spoke, Li Macho's tone suddenly became chilly, and his expression on the face was also cold and frightening. "Senior sister has a keen eye, junior brother does have a slight injury on his body." Longpeng didn't feel scared either. He took 2 steps forward and smiled. "Junior brother thinks we still have a bit of kinship. Senior sister shouldn't have taken junior brother's life, right?" Li Macho stared at Longpeng for a while, then suddenly turned around and snorted coldly, "Sell your face, come with me. Stop speaking." Li Macho used his lightness skills and flew towards the shore. Longpeng's internal strength has decreased by 70.8% now, and due to internal injuries, it is not convenient to use her internal strength. Naturally, she cannot achieve her graceful demeanor, so she has to wait for the ship to dock before speaking. On the shore, Li Macho stood tall with a jade body. Seeing that Longpeng had not followed, he frowned and said to the little Taoist nun with his head lowered behind him, "Lingbo, go see why your junior uncle hasn't come yet." Junior uncle. Hong Lingbo was full of doubts and couldn't understand why his master went to kill and burn a ship. Suddenly, he made a little master and carefully raised his head, looking around. "Master, who is the little master?" "That ship." Li Macho paused for a moment and said, "The most beautiful thing you see inside is your junior martial uncle." Hong Lingbo nodded repeatedly and said yes, feeling happy in his heart. He jumped out of the river bank and stepped on the water to gain strength. Merchant ships. "Lin. Do you know the Taoist just now, brother Lin?" Longpeng turned around and saw the timid Lu Lan walking out of the cabin. He nodded and replied, "I know you. Brother Lin, she doesn't look good." Before Lu Lan could finish speaking, she was interrupted by a coquettish shout. "Disciple Hong Lingbo, on the orders of master, please come ashore, little master." Longpeng was slightly stunned. As soon as he turned around, he saw a famous young Taoist stepping on the river and standing by the boat. His watery eyes scanned the surroundings, seemingly searching for something. Cough. Longpeng coughed lightly and said, "Uncle, I'm feeling unwell. Could you please take me over with you, nephew?" Hong Lingbo immediately looked over and saw Longpeng, who was thin in stature. He rubbed his eyes and couldn't help but say, how could there be such a handsome man in the sky? My nephew. Hong Lingbo regained his senses and hurriedly said, that disciple pays respects to junior uncle. Don't be too polite, let's go ashore. Okay, okay. Hong Lingbo quickly responded and restrained himself, holding on to Longpeng and rushing towards the shore. Don't look at me, my daughter. I've already walked away. Lu Lan was taken aback and said, Daddy, Brother Lin left without even saying goodbye to me. Sigh. Watching his own daughter lose her composure, Lu Laohan sighed and said, Girl. We're different from her. What's different? Sigh. Dad, I also want to learn martial arts. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Blood Knife Evil Monk. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Blood Knife Evil Monk at the Riverbank. Li Macho somehow got entangled in a fight with several martial artists dressed as Tibetan monks. Longpeng didn't mean to intervene, but was a bit curious. Martial nephew, who are those monks? Hong Lingbo was stunned for a moment before realizing that Li Macho was fighting with someone. After observing for a while, he showed an angry expression and said, They are lustful monks from the Blood Sword Sect. These stinky monks don't look like monks at all. Upon hearing this, Longpeng nodded thoughtfully and said, Aren't you going to help? Master didn't. Lingbo, what are you doing there? Before Hong Lingbo could finish speaking, when he heard Li Macho calling her, he was so scared that he shuddered and hurriedly drew his long sword from his waist. Master, I'm here to help you. Hong Lingbo stepped forward with his sword, and Li Macho jumped out of the battle circle. Longpeng looked at her relaxed expression and estimated that she should have deliberately kept her alive. Junior brother, how has my junior sister been lately? Longpeng withdrew his gaze and drank tea, pondering, I haven't been back to the ancient tomb for a long time, and I'm not sure about Sister A's recent situation. Li Macho's lips curved into a smile as he was about to answer when he saw the battle situation on Hong Lingbo's side and his eyebrows furrowed. Lingbo, how many times do you want to speak for your teacher? Your moves must be active. If you can't kill them after 30 moves, I will kill you. Upon hearing these words, Hong Lingbo wept and continued to fight against those blood knife monks. However, perhaps due to Li Macho's recent statement, his moves became increasingly chaotic and he fell into a disadvantageous situation, posing a great danger. Rotten wood. Li Macho let out a furious roar, bent his fingers and popped out several silver needles emitting a chill. He only heard the sound of shua, shua breaking through the air, and Hong Lingbo had no mouth left in front of him. Ha! Hong Lingbo panted heavily and dared not delay. He immediately ran to the tea stall and half knelt down. The disciple is dull. Please forgive me, master. I will definitely make progress next time. Not practicing martial arts well, daydreaming all day, still hoping for improvement in martial arts. Seeing Li Macho's intention to dig up old accounts, Hong Lingbo only felt unlucky. The disciple knows his mistake, and the master calms down. The disciple is determined to no longer be lazy, but will work hard to practice and show filial piety to the master. Humph. Li Macho snorted coldly and said, What are you still doing here? Have you forgotten the instructions before becoming a teacher? Upon hearing this, Hong Lingbo breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, knowing that he had managed to get by now. I'm going to prepare the dry rations and horses now. Please wait a moment, master. Seeing Hong Lingbo fleeing, Longpeng smiled dumbfounded. Senior sister is clearly worried about my nephew's safety, why do you have to look so stern? Li Macho involuntarily rolled up his sleeves, paused for a moment, and asked directly, speaking of which, I don't know who hurt my junior brother. Senior sister wants to know. I saw that his expression was not right. Li Macho suddenly became interested and said, just tell me and listen. I think I've heard an interesting story, and I'm tired of it. Long Peng lightly tapped the 8 immortals table with his fingertips, pondered for a moment, and then recounted the story. Li Macho's slender fingers wrapped around his sideburns, looking at Long Peng with great interest, his eyes full of playfulness and laughter. Xiaomu, you are really unlucky. When you were a child, you were foolish and not very intelligent. Later, your master cruelly sent you to the hands of those hypocrites in the Quanzhen sect, citing the rules of the ancient tomb sect. Didn't you ever hold a grudge against your master? Xiaomu was the nickname of Longpeng in the ancient tomb. Longpeng regained his composure and gave Li Macho a complex glance. Master has his own considerations, and I also know his intentions, so I have never had any resentment. You have a broad mind. Li Macho sneered twice, even disdainfully, and then said, I heard from you just now, are you going to keep going with Quanzhen's teachings? If you want to kill me, I will execute you. Ha ha ha. Li Macho laughed heartily and said, Junior brother, junior brother. It's not that I look down on you, senior sister. It's just that your crazy words are too funny, senior sister. I can't help it. Then senior sister, let's just take it as a joke. It's also a good thing to smile more. Li Macho's smile abruptly came to an end, and his expression returned to indifference. Junior brother, after I finish handling the matter at hand, you can come with me back to the ancient tomb. Long Peng is not sure what her idea is. Can I refuse? Li Macho's eyes turned a little cold. I'm thinking about friendship with my fellow disciples and don't want to take action. I hope you can understand some sense of propriety, junior brother. Looking at Li Macho, whose ominous aura lingered between his eyebrows and eyes, Long Peng felt a bit dazed for a moment. When I was a child. Lin maidservant often goes into seclusion, while her grandmother Law is getting older, so most of Longpeng and Xiaolongnu are taken care of by Li Macho. Longpeng was foolish when he was young, much harder to take care of than little dragon girl. Although Li Macho spoke of trouble and annoyance, he still did his best and did not let go of the blame. At that time, she has a gentle temperament and a kind heart, making her a very good woman. Senior sister. I heard from my elder sister that before my master passed away, he was still thinking about you and driving you out of the ancient tomb. He also felt that your temperament was not suitable for staying in the tomb, and the transmission of the Jade Maiden Heart Sutra to my elder sister was also. That's enough. Li Macho suddenly spoke up and stared at Long Peng intently. I can't compare to my junior sister in any way. Do you really think that master's favoritism is something I don't know? Senior sister, you really misunderstood master. Master, she. Bang 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 bang. Shut up. Li Macho slapped the tea table, his towering chest fluctuating. Get out of here, he said, senior sister. Get lost. Long Peng's throat wriggled and he hesitated to speak. After a long sigh, he stood up. Grandma is getting old and not in good health, so she will be missing one more time when I see her in the future. I am thinking about going back to the ancient tomb to visit her elderly family in a while. Before leaving, my junior brother will visit my senior sister at the Chuixue villa. Senior sister, take care. The young man gradually drifted away, and his shadow was pulled long by the sunset until it disappeared. Li Macho nodded and remained silent. Fragmented light shone through the sign and landed on half of her cheek. Her eyebrows and eyes relaxed, and she looked as if she had softened slightly. Not long. Master, I'm back. Hong Lingbo led 2 horses back and sat down on a bench, drinking a bowl of tea, wiping his sleeves with sweat, and looking left and right with his eyes. Hey! Where's little master? Without a response, Li Macho lightly mounted his horse and urged, let's go. Master, wait for me. You can leave as soon as you're told, there's so much nonsense coming from nowhere. Hong Lingbo's liver and gallbladder trembled, and he immediately calmed down, following Li Macho eastward. The sun is setting in the western mountains, and the setting sun is like blood. The gentle breeze blows, and the rustling sound of the bamboo forest is very pleasant to the ear. Long Ping suddenly stopped in his tracks and said coldly, I've been following you for so long, haven't you come out yet? Huh, the wind brushing against my cheeks is very comfortable. Long Ping reached out and broke a bamboo stick, suddenly sweeping towards the bushes on the roadside, making a mournful roar. Damn it, you little brat should have noticed it. The famous big monk with a big arm and a round waist walked out cursing. Blood knife gate, precious elephant. This precious elephant has a face full of flesh, beards on both cheeks, and looks very fierce. He wrapped the monk's robe around his waist, revealing half of his chest, and held a large knife in his hand, pointing directly at the door of Longpeng's face. Little brat, hurry up, kneel down and give up, let go. I'm in a good mood and spare your life. Seeing the true energy attached to the big sword in the hand of this precious elephant, Long Peng's sword eyebrows furrowed slightly, feeling a sense of thorny tightness, and also feeling that he was indeed as Li Macho had said. Unlucky. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Shuimu Qinghua. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Shuimu Qinghua in the martial arts world. Being able to attach true qi to weapons is considered a second-rate expert. As the senior brother of the Blood Knife sect, Baoxian also possesses supernatural and evil skills such as the Blood Knife Classic. It is also a top-notch presence in the hands of second-rate experts. If Long Peng is still at his peak, even if there are 10 such characters, he is not afraid. Unfortunately. There is no ifs in the world. Damn it, what are you pretending to be mute for? Speak up quickly. Baoxiang approached with a grim smile, didn't you just let me out? Why didn't you speak? Kid, I see you and that stinky old lady Li Macho flirting during the day. I think your relationship is not ordinary, right? Let me tell you, is this old lady strong enough? Baoxiang kept talking trash, and his grin became even more terrifying. Long Peng lowered the corner of his eye, and a cold star flickered in his eyes. As the precious elephant approached him 5 steps in front, he suddenly made a move and shot out like an arrow. The bamboo stick swept out the remnants and swept towards the door of the precious elephant's face. Out of measure. Baoxiang laughed wildly and swung his sword, chopping it out. Unexpectedly, the bamboo stick suddenly turned half a circle in the air, stabbing his Ximen acupoint under the ribs, instantly interrupting his breath. Damn it! Baoxiang covered his ribs, panting heavily, his eyes fixed on Longpeng, burning with anger. Ximen acupoint. It is one of the 30.6 deadly acupoints in the human body. After being hit, it can impact the liver or spleen, damage the diaphragm, block blood, and damage qi. That is to say, Longpeng's current strength is unparalleled. Otherwise, just one move just now, dividing the flowers and brushing the willows, would be enough for this precious elephant to drink a pot. Longpeng also understood the principle of taking advantage of one's illness and taking one's life. He didn't want to give this precious elephant time to regulate its breath. Seeing the success of one strike, he stepped forward again. The bamboo stick swung out strong winds with great speed. Baoxiang didn't expect Longpeng to strike so quickly, and he didn't react quickly. His cheeks were scraped off with large chunks of flesh, and blood flowed all over the ground. Damn it, the thief will die. Baoxiang cursed loudly, but dared not show any contempt and swung his sword to confront him. A big knife was made powerful by him, which was very frightening. In an instant, the two fought in a stalemate for a long time. Longpeng was originally a disciple of the ancient Tomb sect. Although he later also practiced Juanzhen martial arts, his foundation was still from the ancient Tomb sect. Therefore, most of the moves are based on strangeness and agility. And watch that precious elephant. Perhaps due to the lack of martial arts skills, it was reckless to open and close the blood knife technique, which is known for its insidious and vicious nature. Longpeng is by no means a foolish person. Knowing that hard work is not a match for the treasure elephant, he relied on his exceptional speed to fight around the treasure elephant. Every time a move is taken, it must hit the vital acupoint of the treasure elephant, causing the monk to shout and become furious. "You stinky mouse! Stinky mouse, don't hide!" Bao Xiang became increasingly insane, and his sword was also a few points faster. However, Longpeng's face was pale with no trace of blood, his forehead was covered in fine sweat, but his expression remained calm. To make a person perish, one must first make them crazy. Anger is possible, but losing reason is foolishness. Bao Xiang, the defeat has been decided. After touching more than 100 moves, Bao Xiang's internal strength bottomed out, and a painful sensation came from the dantian, causing a momentary disturbance in his breath. Longpeng's eyes lit up slightly, seizing the opportunity in suddenly getting closer. With a move of sealing the throat for thousands of miles, a bamboo stick pierced into the throat of the precious elephant, staining it with a bright red hue. Ha! Longpeng Chang breathed a sigh of relief, his body swayed and almost fell. Fortunately, he was supported by a bamboo stick, which prevented him from falling. "My old injury has recurred, and I've been feeling a bit tired lately." Looking at the old wounds that had cracked on his body, Longpeng rubbed his temple, quickly sealed it to stop bleeding, and then pulled the robe of the precious elephant to bandage himself. This monk's martial arts are compared to those of Zhao Zhijing and Zhen Jibing from the Quanzhen sect, and he is also on par with Zhong. It is estimated that he is also the beloved disciple of the bloodthirst ancestor. This is. Longpeng was picking up his precious elephant clothes when he saw a book fall to the ground. He was stunned for a moment and immediately picked it up. The Blood Knife Classic. Longpeng glanced twice, but before he could even take a closer look, Zhong Dantian felt a faint pain, apparently due to the recent use of internal energy causing an internal injury attack. Helpless. Longpeng had to take the Blood Knife Classic and some silver into his arms, and immediately sat cross-legged, carrying the 9 healing chapter. Pop, pop. Before the dragon pinyin gong had reached an hour, the sound of horse hooves sounded, approaching from afar and approaching in an instant. "Get out of here." A coquettish sound exploded. I saw a black-clad woman riding a handsome horse whipping towards Longpeng. The woman in black has a tall and slender figure, with a thin veil on her face that makes it difficult to see clearly. Her back is slender, and she wears a bouquet of black hair made of black oil. Mu Wanqing. Pa. Longpeng was unable to dodge and was whipped hard, leaving a red blood mark on his back. The internal injuries that had not yet healed caused chaos, causing his internal organs to ache and spewing out a mouthful of blood. Cough cough. Wiping away the blood from the corners of his lips, Longpeng slowly stood up, his eyes icy as he gazed at the slender figure on the horse's back ahead, and pulled out his large knife that had been inserted into the ground. Buzzing, Mu Wanqing only felt a gust of evil wind coming. As soon as she turned around, she saw a big knife slashing towards her arm and was so scared that she quickly bent down to dodge. The cold blade brushed against her back, carrying a hint of fresh blood as it slanted to the ground, causing Mu Wanqing's scalp to tingle. Hiss. The black horse suddenly let out a painful hissing sound, leaped up high, and Mu Wanqing unexpectedly fell to the ground, narrowly avoiding the raised hooves. "What's wrong with Black Rose?" Mu Wanqing quickly got up from the ground and comforted the pitch-black handsome horse named Black Rose. I noticed that Black Rose is missing one ear. Mu Wanqing was shocked and angry, and turned her head to stare at Longpeng standing in place. Choking, Mu Wanqing reached out and pulled out the long sword from the horse's belly. Dare you hurt my Black Rose? I'm looking for death. You want to kill me? Longpeng's face remained expressionless as he walked step by step towards Mu Wanqing. Moonlight fell on his cheek, and a pair of phoenix eyes flowed with a murderous intent. Unfortunately, I also want to kill you, he said. A very calm sentence, devoid of any emotion, inexplicably made Mu Wanqing feel a chill in her bones. Little bitch, don't leave. Accompanied by loud cheers coming from the bamboo forest behind, there was also a sense of vibration generated by the galloping horses. Kid, I remember you now. Mu Wanqing's face changed slightly, and she glared fiercely at Longpeng. She turned over and mounted her horse. Black Rose, let's go. Oh. The Black Rose raised its front hooves and let out a hissing, rushing away. Do you want to leave? Longpeng sneered coldly, regardless of whether the internal injury worsened afterwards. He used his internal strength and used the superior lightness skills of the ancient tomb sect, leaping onto the bamboo and would like an agile eagle, borrowing a few forces and even reaching out to Mu Wanqing. Mu Wanqing was startled and lifted her slender arms, shooting several sleeve arrows in a row. A sleeve arrow. A non-mainstream hidden weapon. Longpeng waved his bamboo stick and blocked it all, then quickly flipped over onto the horse's back, pulling the bamboo stick towards Mu Wanqing's delicate and porcelain-like jade neck. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Chasing and Fighting. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Chasing and Fighting. Mu Wanqing dared not let Longpeng succeed. She quickly extended her slender arm and stood in front of her throat, pressing against the bamboo stick. After approaching Mu Wanqing, Longpeng smelled a faint and elegant fragrance resembling orchids, musk, and non-musk, which was very pleasant, and immediately added another boost to his strength. Mu Wanqing's slender arms had already turned green, and the pain made her frown. Suddenly, the sound of bang bang was crisp, and the bamboo stick broke. Just as Mu Wanqing breathed a sigh of relief in her heart, she saw Longpeng's right arm embrace and pull it back again, asking her to lift up her previously relaxed breath. The morning sun is rising. The Black Rose galloped freely, stirring up rolling smoke and dust. On the back of the horse, Mu Wanqing gritted her teeth tightly, feeling a tightness in her chest and her arms almost breaking. Even in such pain, she dared not relax at all. This is. Noticing the wetness behind her, a sweet and fishy smell gradually came in. Mu Wanqing took advantage of the dawn to see clearly that it was the blood overflowing from Longpeng's body. Are you crazy anymore? Let go of me. When you die, naturally let go. Longpeng's expression was cold, and he caught a glimpse of her wriggling throat. With a flash of inspiration, he opened his mouth and bit her. The power was so great that it only turned red in an instant. Ah! Perhaps it was the exhaustion of the dragon's strength, or perhaps it was the burst of potential from Mu Wanqing's painful eating that finally broke free from the constraints. The force was suddenly removed. Longpeng's body was unbalanced and he fell off the horse. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and immediately hit the ground with his palm, using force to return to the horse's back. You thief, those born in the year of the dog cannot do it. Mu Wanqing turned her eyes and glared angrily, covering her neck injury. She lifted her right hand and fired several sleeve arrows. Unfortunately, with such a powerful hidden weapon technique, Longpeng dodged on one side of his head, followed by a move called Huji's 18 beats. His palms were like a flock of butterflies flying randomly, conjuring up countless palm shadows and approaching Mu Wanqing's vital chest and abdomen. Mu Wanqing was not good at punching and kicking, so she reached out and wanted to draw out the long sword from the horse's belly to deal with it. However, her intention was pierced by Longpeng, and she was punched hard in the Tanzhong acupoint, on her chest and abdomen. Dantian suffered a heavy blow. With a wow sound from Mu Wanqing, her delicate body arched into a shrimp-like shape, her belly tumbling with rivers and seas, her face turning pale in an instant, and blood was faintly visible at the corner of her lips. Death. Longpeng saw the opportunity and pointed a sword at her fragile throat. At this moment, the piercing sound of whoosh, whoosh kept coming from behind. Longpeng made a decisive decision and changed his moves. With a move of shifting shape and shadow, he pulled Mu Wanqing over and wanted to use her as a meat shield. Little thief, even if I die today, I will still hold you as a cushion. Mu Wanqing gave a dismal smile, her plain face tinged with a hint of determination, and she quickly hugged Longpeng's waist and back, tightly gripping the horse's belly with her legs. Rao even exerted all his strength to move it away. Through her obstruction, Longpeng has been hit by several flying arrows, but fortunately it was just this external injury that did not harm the vital points. Of course, Longpeng also knew that the plan could not be delayed like this, and his anger sank into the elixir field, using the skill of falling 1,000 pounds. Woo! Black Rose let out a mournful cry, her limbs softened, and she fell directly, along with the two people on her horse's back, being thrown away. Rao is like this. There was no intention of letting go of Mu Wanqing, there was a hint of mutual destruction. Fight fiercely all night. Longpeng couldn't bear it anymore. He sat slumped on the ground, his breath disordered, his chest heaving violently, and he looked particularly haggard. Looking at the 7 or 8 riders and horses under the rolling dust and smoke not far away, Mu Wanqing felt that she couldn't escape death, and her heart was filled with sorrow, unable to help but sob. Longpeng listened anxiously and said, "You were not quite impressive just now, why are you crying now? You have to manage it." Mu Wanqing just said a sentence, her neck was very painful, and she was particularly unhappy in her heart. No matter what, she just took a bite. Hiss. Longpeng took a cold breath, tightened his muscles, and vigorously pulled out his left hand to grab Mu Wanqing's jaw and push it outward. "Do you also know how to bite people? I learned from you." Ha! Longpeng was really exhausted and didn't want to be further constrained by Mu Wanqing. He pretended to be frivolous and smiled, "Looking at you like this, you probably haven't gotten married yet, have you? What's your concern? It's none of my business if you hold me tightly like this. If this were to spread, wouldn't someone's lifelong reputation be destroyed in an instant? You are such a shameless disciple." Mu Wanqing couldn't resist being frivolous, and as she raised her hand, she was about to slap Longpeng. As soon as she let go of her hand, she was thrown away. Sigh. Sigh. 7 or 8 good horses from the western region stopped, and the disciples of the Lingjiu palace on their backs looked at the two of them with suspicion. Longpeng stood tall and composed, arched his hand and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, this woman is rude and unreasonable. She provoked me, and I angrily took action. She has nothing to do with her entanglement in this place." The leading Lingjiu disciple looked at Longpeng, then whispered a few words to his fellow disciples before letting them turn their horses and leave. "Have you not consulted the names and taboos of the young hero?" Looking at the person who had passed away, Longpeng's eyes closed slightly and he said, "Li Qingjing, am a disciple of Quanzhen. I have something important to attend to, so I won't be able to stay for a long time. Goodbye." Longpeng has not taken a few steps yet. Mu Wanqing suddenly exclaimed, "Senior brother, hurry up and I'll stop them." The next moment, a few long swords thrust towards the heart behind Longpeng, and this move was a deadly move. Seeing Longpeng trapped in the siege, Mu Wanqing smiled at the corner of her lips and thought to herself, "Don't try to escape easily from the trap that Dang Tuzi has done to me. Little slut, hurry up and surrender." Two women, when they had free time, immediately turned their swords and attacked Mu Wanqing, causing her smile to abruptly stop. Black Rose. Mu Wanqing shouted loudly. The Black Rose shook its head, got up from the ground, and rushed over quickly. Quickly dodge. A disciple of a spirit vulture reacted quickly and pushed aside his fellow disciple. Senior brother, hold on a little longer and I'll come back to save you right away. Mu Wanqing flipped over and mounted her horse, pretending to shout at Longpeng and galloping wildly. Don't leave. You go ahead and chase after him, we'll catch this man before we talk. Yes. It was set aside. Longpeng, on the other hand, remained calm, looking around and pondering the method of escape. Since the day he betrayed Quanzhen, Longpeng has encountered countless situations of life and death. In the past, he survived tenaciously, and this time, he is no exception. If I don't want to, then no one in this world can kill me. Ha! When a gust of wind arose, a disciple of a spiritual eagle rushed out with a sword. Longpeng's mind moved and he used the phrase, golden goose in the sky. He stepped on the tip of the man's sword and jumped up, immediately using the style of, Yao Jiao Kong Bai, from the ancient tomb lightness skill, as if floating in mid-air like a dragon in the clouds. Not good, he wants to escape, hurry up. The remaining Lingjiu disciples didn't rush to mount their horses and chased after Longpeng with all their might. As soon as he fell, they waited with a sharp sword to serve him. Looking ahead at the two riders chasing after Mu Wanqing. Longpeng's eyes were sharp, and by the time his strength dissipated, he had fallen behind one of them. The thief is dying. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Quanzhen Lingjiu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Quanzhen Lingjiu Papa. The Lingjiu disciple drew his sword and turned around, facing behind him was a sharp sword. Unexpectedly, Longpeng stepped on her back, took off, and headed towards the rider ahead. The disciple of the spiritual eagle struck loneliness with a sword and even got kicked, feeling very angry in his chest. He shouted loudly, "Senior sister, that thief is behind you." By this statement, before Longpeng could land, a sharp sword had already come towards him. Ding! A slightly ethereal sword roar sounded. I saw Longpeng's old technique repeated, and another move, golden wild goose in the sky, combined with Yaojiao sky blue, flying and leaping, leaving only a bright red figure behind. Drive, drive. Two Lingjiu disciples, upon seeing this, felt that they had been played with and their lungs were about to explode. They raised their horse whips and continued to pursue. On the ancient road, Mu Wanqing rode her horse wildly, feeling a chill behind her and smelling a familiar smell of blood, which startled her greatly. It's you, a disciple again. How could you not let go of your grievances? At this moment, a blood-stained broken sword crossed Mu Wanqing's throat, forcefully interrupting her movements. Don't move around, continue riding. Longpeng's face was cold and indifferent, and the broken sword in his hand had already cut through Mu Wanqing's skin. I don't want to die, and you don't want to just disappear like this, do you? Upon hearing this, Mu Wanqing was stunned for a moment, gritted her teeth, but ultimately did not make any unusual movements. A series of changes. Longpeng has already reached his limit and is still conscious, relying entirely on a strong breath to sustain himself. However, humans ultimately have limits. The cool breeze blew, and Longpeng felt comfortable in the clouds. In just a moment, his upper and lower eyelids began to fight. I can't sleep. Half asleep and half awake, Longpeng fiercely bit the tip of his tongue, trying to stay awake. However, when he realized he was still unconscious, he pinched his left leg injury. Who? The heavy breathing hit Mu Wanqing's neck, which was a bit itchy and crispy. She wanted to reach out and scratch it, but the broken sword that lay horizontally in front of her neck made her dare not make any other movements. Can survive, who wants to die? She could only threaten without confidence, Deng Tuzi, if you take advantage of me again, we will all perish together. Deng Tuzi. Longpeng breathed a sigh of relief and adjusted his breath to himself. I admit that you were born with some beauty, but you still can't catch my eye. Hear this. Mu Wanqing clenched her pink fist tightly, a hint of anger rising in her chest for no reason. Just as she was about to speak, she suddenly realized something was strange. After a moment of contemplation, she remembered the oath she had made and her heart was in turmoil. She even tightened the reins. What's wrong with you, woman? I really want to die. Almost. Mu Wanqing died under the blade of the sword. Without this groom, by then, Longpeng estimated that he would also be unable to escape. When did you see my appearance? Mu Wanqing ignored her and turned around, her eyes slightly red as she asked, so what if I see it? Longpeng panted heavily and reached out to pinch her neck, his gaze unusually fierce. Now leave immediately, don't play any tricks with me, be careful. Mu Wanqing's expression was complex. She carefully looked at Longpeng a few times, lowered her head, and slowly asked, do you have a wife? As soon as Mu Wanqing asked, the strong hand in front of her neck intensified, making it difficult for her to breathe. Longpeng's breathing was heavy, his eyes were dazed, and he only uttered one word. Let's go. Mu Wanqing took 2 deep breaths, lowered her eyes, and said, Black Rose, let's go. Hiss. The Black Rose horse's hooves soar high, galloping wildly on its journey, riding without a trace. After about half an hour of touching, Black Rose walked into a mountain stream at a much slower speed. Blue sky and white clouds, green mountains and clear waters, truly a beautiful spring scenery. Unfortunately, Longpeng is not in the mood to appreciate it now. Stop. Mu Wanqing's delicate body was slightly stunned, lightly pulling on the reins. Sigh. Starting from today, we will have a clear understanding of our past grievances. In the future, when we meet in the martial arts world, we will be enemies or friends, and we will have to say otherwise. One word fell. Longpeng perked up and pretended to be safe, walking upstream along the river. Staring at his back, Mu Wanqing pursed her lips and said, Hey, what's your name? Quiet, Longpeng didn't respond, just kept walking towards the depths of the mountains and forests. This disciple. Mu Wanqing stroked her slightly dusty cheek, feeling a bit unwilling. She patted Black Rose's head and said, Black Rose, please rest here for a while. I'll go see what that disciple is doing. Black Rose rubbed against Mu Wanqing's hand and slowly lowered her head, drinking water and eating grass. Seeing the long sword on the horse's belly, Mu Wanqing hesitated for a moment before choosing to wear it. Then, she quickly chased after it along the bloodstains on the ground. Until dusk. The golden sunset flows in the bamboo forest, casting mottled shadows. 10-digit Chuanzhen disciples looked around, searching for the trace of Longpeng. Li Jifan coughed lightly and arched his hand to ask the disciple of the Lingjiu palace beside him, Fairy Su, I wonder where the traitor I taught is. Suing frowned and looked displeased. Just now, senior sister asked me to inform you, but I have no idea what will happen afterwards. This. Li Jifan was speechless, with a faint suspicion in his heart that the disciple of the Lingjiu palace was intentionally coming to play with him. After all, it is difficult to say whether this Lingjiu palace is right or wrong, making it difficult for others to grasp. As Li Jifan hesitated and hesitated, he galloped to ride a few horses under the sunset of the western mountain. They came backlit. Li Jifan and others couldn't see their faces clearly, but from their clothing, they could still see that they were the disciples of the spirit vulture they had recently met in Yayang Tower. See them getting closer and closer. Thinking of not wasting his efforts, Li Jifan caught Longpeng, the credit, who had escaped for half a year. He was particularly excited in his heart and said urgently, I have seen all the fairies before, I don't know. Li Jifan has not finished speaking yet. Seeing them empty-handed and disheveled, they couldn't speak at once. Seeing his reaction, Li Rongxue sarcastically said, what kind of expression is this, Taoist Li? Are you very disappointed that we didn't catch anyone? Li Jifan chuckled twice and said, where, all the fairies have been fortunate and hard-working all the way. How could I be disappointed? Alright, don't argue with me here. Li Rongxue waved her hand and said coldly, the person you're chasing, along with that little slut, is now hiding in Meishan. Just now, I have gathered nearby people to gather there. I hope you Quanzhen sect can also show some sincerity, don't always think about not contributing. Li Jifan's expression was perplexed. Although Quanzhen sect has spread the teachings of 3,000 Taoist temples, 100,000 disciples, and 1 million followers, its main influence is still in the north. Moreover, these independent Taoist temples, whether or not to listen to his 3-generation disciples, that's just a matter of 2 words. Although the Lingjiu Palace is located far away in the Tian Shan Mountains, its 30.6 caves and 70.2 islands are scattered throughout the 5 lakes and 4 seas. When needed. Even with the help of disciples from the Lingjiu Palace, these subordinate forces can be obedient and obedient. The comparison between the two can be said to be vastly different. Why are you in a difficult position? Li Jifan quickly shook his head. He dared not let down the face of Quanzhen sect. I will definitely do my best, he said, that's good. Let's meet at the foot of Meishan before Su Shi, don't delay. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Master of the Dead Wood. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Master of the Dead Wood. The setting sun sets, and the hooked moon rises. The quiet Meishan rises with a thin mist at some point, ethereal and dreamy. A dilapidated temple. A yellow-robed old monk bent down and calmly cleaned the dust on the Buddha statue. Amitabha Buddha, since the benefactor is awake, why pretend to sleep? Cough. Longpeng slowly sat up and looked around with a puzzled expression. He vaguely remembered that he should have been treating his wound on the shore, and his decision would not be here. Master, was it you who saved the younger generation? Besides me, there is also a female benefactor. Is there another female donor? Longpeng was taken aback for a moment and asked, who is that woman, and is she human? The old monk in the yellow robe turned around and said with a smile, the female benefactor left about an hour ago without leaving her name, but she did leave a sentence. Do you want to know, benefactor? Longpeng bowed his hand and said, I would like to raise my ears and listen. The old monk in the yellow robe cleared his throat twice and brewed for a while. Deng Tuzi, you have not recovered from your serious injury this time. I disdain to take advantage of others' danger by acting like a villain, but next time we meet, we will definitely take your life. I heard the term Deng Tuzi. Longpeng suddenly remembered the woman in black, thinking that she had not fallen into the well and taken his own life. He felt a little confused for a moment. Benefactor, in my opinion, that female benefactor should be just a joke, there's no need to take it seriously. Longpeng regained his composure and said, whether it's true or false, she can show mercy. If we meet someday, I will also show mercy. Your words are very good, benefactor. It is better to resolve enemies than to settle them. Longpeng smiled and said, you haven't consulted the master's Dharma name yet. Leona Tianlong Temple, Withered Wood. I turned out to be a high-ranking monk from Tianlong Temple. I'm so polite, younger generation. Kuki smiled and helped Longpeng steady. Benefactor, you don't need to be too polite. I have a family of many, saving lives and helping the wounded. It's my job, how can I falsely call myself a high monk? Master Compassion. Amitabha Buddha, benefactor, you have praised me too much. The master is willing to expend his efforts to heal the wounds of the younger generation, a stranger whom he met by chance. Naturally, he can become a high monk and show compassion. At least with the younger generation, you can become a high monk. Longpeng bowed and performed a great salute. At this moment, his external injury has already healed, and his intractable internal injury has also healed by half. Everything is difficult at the beginning. The remaining internal injuries, according to Long Peng's calculations, will recover in less than half a month. The old monk in front of me can use his energy to use the one young finger to heal his injuries. He wouldn't take such kindness lightly. Long Peng never realized that he was a kind-hearted and bodhisattva-like person, a great sage. But they are never ungrateful people. Kuki smiled helplessly and said, "I don't deserve this big gift from the benefactor. Please accept it, benefactor. In the younger generation's place, you can afford it." Long Peng insisted on finishing his salute and then asked, "I remember that Tianlong Temple should be in Dali, right? Why did the master suddenly come to the Central Plains? Are you going to argue with others and participate in meditation?" Kuki shook his head, and his smile faded, appearing to be heavy-hearted. "This matter is a long story." "No problem, it's a long night. Master, just speak freely." Sigh. The withered wood sat down and added some firewood to the campfire. "This matter will start 10 years ago. At that time, Lord Lu Zhanyuan and the Mid-Autumn Festival on August 15 this year is the deadline of the 10-year agreement. At that time, Li Macho, the Chilian fairy, will be in Linlu family village. I'm afraid that she will open the killing ring. I must stop her." After Kuki finished speaking slowly, he also felt a little relieved. He looked up and saw that Long Peng's face was not right. He said strangely, "Almsgiver, why are you worried? Do you also have a grudge against that almsgiver Li?" Long Peng exhaled his turbid breath and asked in a deep voice, "Master, can't we just stand idly by?" "No way." Long Peng frowned with his sword and said, "Master, as far as I know, Li Macho is not what he used to be. His martial arts skills may not be inferior to those of the master. If the master accidentally passes away, wouldn't he have wasted his life? I have been thinking for many years that if I had acted more gently back then, perhaps Master Li would not have taken this path." The withered wood fell silent for a moment, then gave a sudden smile, which was very peaceful. "Life in the world has its antecedents, life and death, life and death, life and death, everything has its own laws, everything is fate, take it as such of you. If I am destined to die in the hands of Master Li, it is also my fate and the fruit I deserve. You don't have to worry too much, Master." Long Peng is also a person who has read Buddhist scriptures and Taoist books. Nature knows that Kuki's remarks are prepared to sacrifice his life and also to appease Li Macho. Just. Long Pengming knew his ending, how could he watch him go to die? Hesitate for a moment. Long Peng's gaze gradually became firm. "Master, that's it. Let the younger generation accompany you on your journey." "What does this mean, benefactor?" Kuki was clearly puzzled. According to his opinion, although Long Peng had good martial arts skills, he still had a gap compared to himself, let alone Li Macho. "Master, to be honest, Li Macho used to be a junior-senior sister. Although she has many children now, she still has some camaraderie. According to Long Peng's perspective. As long as she doesn't stop Li Macho from destroying the entire Lu family village, she won't kill her. At that time, it is also feasible to ask Li Macho to show mercy on the withered wood. He still has this confidence. As for the life and death of Lu Jiazwang, Long Peng only wants to say, what does it have to do with me? This world. Every day, people die. And when Lu Zhanyuan chose to step into the quagmire of the martial arts world, he should have known that this outcome would come. Kue Mu looked at Long Peng for a while, his expression changing from time to time. I see, no wonder the donor's internal injury. I look so familiar with it. What's wrong with the master? Kuki smiled and said, if I guess correctly, the benefactor should be surnamed Long, right? Long Peng was taken aback for a moment and said, Master, do you know about the younger generation? Kue Mu nodded and said earnestly, Almsgiver, when has the retribution come to an end? As the saying goes, let go of the butcher's knife and become a Buddha on the ground. If one is disturbed by obsession, wouldn't life be very painful? Longpeng pursed his lips and slowly said, Master, I am aware of what you said, but I feel really uncomfortable because I can't let out this evil breath in my chest. Perhaps I am the same type of person as my senior sister. Master. But regret saving the younger generation. Foolish child, when did I regret it? In the eyes of the Buddha, there is no distinction between good and evil, and all sentient beings can cross it. I dare not falsely call myself the Buddha, but I cannot ignore others' lives and fall. Kuki smiled and shook his head. Besides, in my opinion, although the benefactor is a bit extreme, his nature is not bad and he deserves the word good. Thank you very much for your teachings, Master. I will definitely do more good deeds in the future. Amitabha Buddha, doing good deeds and achieving good results is the best. Kuki smiled and made a Buddhist salute, paused for a moment, and continued, Benefactor, in my opinion, the frost-breaking shoes palm that benefactor Tanzhong received should not have meant to be a killer. Longpeng suddenly stood up, grabbed his broken sword from the ground, stared at the torches outside the temple, and said in a deep voice, Master, we have a bad guest here. Your internal strength has not yet recovered, let's avoid it. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Future Arrangements. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Future Arrangements. Hurry up, hurry up. There's a flame in the dilapidated temple ahead, there must be someone. Everyone, hurry up. Disciples, it's time to be loyal to Tonglao. Don't delay, this time we must catch Lin Jishuan, a traitor who slaughtered his fellow disciples. The quiet night was shattered by the noise. In the misty mountains and forests, torches one after another continue to form a continuous pattern, reflecting the surroundings like daylight. Inside the dilapidated temple, Kuki watched for a while, picked up the broom next to the altar, continued to clean, and occasionally looked outside at the situation. Amitabha Buddha. Looking at the refreshed Buddha statue, Kuki recited the Buddha's name several times, performed a Buddhist ritual, took out a letter from his arms, and placed it on the altar. I should also be on my way, he said outside the temple. Who else is there? Longpeng stepped on the paper tiger of the cave owner and island owner at his feet, holding the sword he had just snatched, looking around with great strength. Li Rongxue, who led the team on this trip to Lingjiu Palace, looked angry. She really didn't expect it. The more than 300 people gathered by oneself were so unbearable, they were just a group of wine bags and rice bags. I secretly decided not to send them the antidote for this year's life and death talisman. A bunch of trash, also worthy of enjoying the medicine refined by Tonglao. Buzzing, Longpeng flicked his sword and said, Today, I am in a happy mood and unwilling to cause any harm. Except for the bull nose of Quanzhen sect, everyone else knows how to deal with it. Get out of here. If you insist on making a life or death decision with someone, then let's see if you guys will kill someone first, or if someone will kill you all first. Quiet, no one spoke up, but their eyes all fell on the disciples of the spirit vultures. Obviously. Without them speaking, these people wouldn't have the courage to leave. Taking a deep glance at Longpeng, Li Rongxue coughed lightly twice and arched her hands slightly. We will no longer interfere with this matter in the Lingjiu Palace, so I bid farewell to you. Let's go. After her words, others were fine, but Li Jifan panicked. You can't leave, you left. Li Daocheng, don't take any advantage of it. Li Rongxue looked at him coldly. She had long been displeased with this Taoist who wanted to trap a white wolf empty-handed, although we agreed to work together, until now, only our own side has contributed. If it weren't for the influence of the Quanzhen sect, Li Jifan would probably have been stabbed to death by her sword long ago. Let's go. Yes. When the people of the Lingjiu Palace left, the magnificent Maishan suddenly became much more desolate. Ha, the night wind brushes against the hills. The remaining 10 or so Quanzhen Taoists had a tense expression and were covered in cold sweat behind their backs, fiercely guarding against Longpeng for fear of him suddenly taking action. For the past 6 months, the name, ferocity, of Longpeng is almost well known within the Quanzhen sect. If it weren't for the cooperation of the Lingjiu palace this time, Li Jifan would definitely not have brought people here on his own. That cow knows, I remember you seem to be the 5th disciple of Wang Qi. What's your name, Li Jifan? Li Jifan trembled and put on a smiling face. Master Lin. Long Xiaoxia, long time no see. Longpeng sneered twice, not surprised by his ability to bend and stretch. There are many people like this in the martial arts world, and there are also many in Quanzhen sect. Tell me, has Zhen Jibing died? Li Jifan's heart thumped and he wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. Before taking charge, please ask Master Ma to leave the stage. Senior brother Zhen. Cough. Zhen Jibing's injury has mostly healed. Ma Zhenren has passed the level, but he is lucky. Longpeng raised his hand and pressed his long sword onto Li Jifan's shoulder. Zhao Zijing, that dog, where are people today? He returned to Zhongnan Mountain not long ago. The sword edge is stained with blood. Li Jifan was in a fierce battle, crying bitterly and feeling suffocated. He cried and shouted, "Young Master Long, you have a large amount, so please spare my life. I will make a poisonous oath and never reveal your whereabouts." He. The faces earned by the Quanzhen Laodao when wandering in the martial arts world have all been ruined by you people. With one kick, Longpeng kicked him away and said coldly, "Go back and tell Qiu Chuji that his palm will be remembered by Long, and he will definitely return it someday." Yes, the path will definitely convey it. Li Jifan, as if granted amnesty, got up and ran down the mountain, as if there were evil spirits chasing after him. Rat generation. Watching his face full of urine, Longpeng mocked and immediately realized that he had been chased by such a group of rodents for half a year. The mockery on his face slowly turned into self-deprecation. The sword was sheathed, and Longpeng returned to the broken temple, but he did not see the figure of the dead wood, which made him feel a bit strange. Master Deadwood. Longpeng searched around and saw no one, only a letter on the altar and the handwriting on the side. Thank you, benefactor. Please deliver this letter to Tianlong Temple. Thank you, farewell without saying goodbye this time. I hope you can forgive me, and I also ask you not to pursue me. If you have the chance to see me again, I will have a good night's conversation with you. With a heart full of kindness and a gentle smile, may the benefactor be at ease and carefree. Longpeng stood still, pursed his lips, and sighed, if we could meet the master again, he should have already entered the innate realm. I wonder if I can see the master again. Longpeng shook his head and sighed deeply. For a moment, Longpeng took out the book, Blood Knife Classic, from his arms and carefully flipped through it. The Blood Knife Classic is divided into 2 parts. One is to practice external moves, while the other is to practice internal skills. Longpeng is not good at swordsmanship and has no intention of delving into this martial arts. He mainly wants to broaden his horizons. On the path of martial arts, it is better to be refined than to be broad, but to have a better understanding of the martial arts of other sections. In the future, when competing with disciples from other sects, one can also see through their moves and gain an advantage. And Longpeng was thinking. In the future, you can get rid of the dross and select the essence to create the most suitable martial arts after you have learned hundreds of unique skills. This martial arts is indeed peculiar and powerful. No wonder the blood sword ancestor was able to establish himself in Tubo, even comparable to the great Wilming King, Kuma's intellectual struggle, with both coming and going. Longpeng has extraordinary talent and the ability to remember and recite through his ears. He has only memorized the content of the scripture once, and then threw the Blood Knife Classic into the bonfire, turning it into flying ash. The internal injury is estimated to heal in less than half a month. Longpeng sat cross-legged and rubbed his empty stomach, feeling a bit hungry. At that time, I will still focus my energy on the Yijin Forging Bone chapter. This martial arts skill can strengthen the essence and strengthen the body, which is my main reliance now. Dali is thousands of miles away from here. If I were to run on one pair of legs now, it would take a monkey year and a horse month to arrive. I still need horses, and I don't know if this silver on me is enough to spend. As the night grew darker, the crescent moon had somehow disappeared into the clouds, and the surroundings were silent and gloomy. In such an environment, Longpeng's mind was contemplating future arrangements, but he also felt calm and comfortable. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Zhong Ling and Duan Yu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Zhong Ling and Duan Yu Mid-Autumn. A gentle breeze swept through the mountains and fields, the shadows of trees swayed, and the grass and trees swayed. A young man in white was seen riding a fast horse and breaking in. Sigh. Sigh. Longpeng lightly pulled the reins and dismounted, taking out a map and meat patty from his arms. He said vaguely, "This place should be the Wuyang mountain. I didn't expect it to look not very high from a distance, but it's actually not short up close." Cough. This cake is really dry. Then drink some water. Longpeng was slightly stunned, his hand resting on the long sword at the belly of the horse. Looking towards the sound, he saw a lively little girl sitting on a big tree, smiling at him. That little girl is not very old, about 15 or 16 years old. Her skin is as smooth as cream, and her smile is like a flower. There is a small dimple at the corner of her mouth, and her smile is pure and innocent, which makes people feel somewhat fond for no reason. Miss, without consulting, is. Pretty sister, why don't you first say your own name? Longpeng's face trembled and he said in a deep voice, "It's a man. Please don't misunderstand, girl." Ah. The girl was slightly surprised and lightly fell in front of Longpeng, looking up and down. "Ah, pretty sister, you are really a man." Longpeng clenched his fist and led the horse around to leave. "Don't leave yet, haven't you told me your name?" The girl held a snow-white ferret in her arms and quickly caught up, "My name is Zhong Ling. I was just joking with you earlier. Don't be angry." Longpeng paused in his footsteps and looked at her suspiciously. "Your name is Zhong Ling." "Yeah, what's your name?" Zhong Ling Shun replied and suddenly realized something. He took a half step back and said, "Have you heard my name? I just feel familiar." Longpeng shook his head and arched his hand slightly. "On the 7 nights in the forest, from Shaanxi, I don't know why Miss Zhong came here." "I'm here." Zhong Ling paused for a moment and asked, "What are you doing here first?" "I have heard that there is a mysterious scene of immortals dancing swords on the Wuyang Sword Sect's Wuyang Jade Wall at night. I came specifically to observe it. This young master and I can be said to be from the same path, it's really fate." A slightly soothing voice sounded. "I saw a handsome young man dressed in a green shirt, with a jade-like appearance and a clear and gentle demeanor walking out of the bushes under the forest." Zhong Ling pretended to exaggerate and pinched his nose, taking a few steps back. "Fool, are you ready to go to the bathroom?" Cough. "All right." Duan Yu coughed lightly twice and arched his hand slightly. "Little student Duan Yu, haven't you asked for the name of the young master?" Longpeng didn't say a word, but closed his eyes and quickly reached out to grab Duan Yu's right pulse. Duan Yu was stunned for a moment, and Zhong Ling asked directly, "Lin Chia, what are you doing?" Hiss. As if sensing Zhong Ling's emotions, the ferret in her arms couldn't help but hiss, bared its teeth and cracked its mouth, as if threatening. Hee. Longpeng smiled and glanced askance at the ferret, releasing his hand. "I saw that this young master Duan has a black aura on his forehead, and I suspect he may have suffered from a bloody disaster. I wanted to check his palm. If there is any rudeness, please forgive me, he said with a smile. I didn't expect you to be a fraud, Zhong Ling said, pinching her waist. Miss Zhong, don't be impolite. Duan Yu grabbed Zhong Ling, rubbed his wrist, and curiously asked, young Master Lin, you said you can tell fortune, but really? Long Peng raised his sword eyebrows slightly and cleared his throat twice. Slightly clear 1 or 2, slightly clear 1 or 2. Idiot, you won't really believe it, will you? I'm just curious and want to ask a question. Duan Yu shook his head and looked at Long Peng, then handed his hand over. Can Mr. Lin say something to satisfy my curiosity? This. Long Peng's expression remained calm, pretending to be mysterious. If my guess is correct, Mr. Duan should be a descendant of the Duan family in Dali. Zhong Ling leaned forward and said, wow, he always says his surname is Duan. You must have come across it. Duan Yu nodded repeatedly. Long Peng glanced at the two of them and continued to pretend, in my opinion, Mr. Duan still has 5 younger sisters. Upon hearing this, Duan Yu immediately smiled and said, Lin Gongzi, this is considered wrong. I am the only son in the family and have no younger sister. Look, it's been exposed, isn't it? Zhong Ling immediately jumped out and said, fool, you can't leave yet. The martial arts competition of the Infinite Sword Sect is about to begin. Go, go, go. Duan Yu responded and quickly caught up, then took a few steps back and said, young Master Lin, let's go quickly. If it's too late, we won't be able to make it to this lively scene. Long Peng nodded, led the horse to a tree, tied it up, and immediately used his lightness skills to sweep towards the Jianghu palace at the foot of the mountain. Several breaths had surpassed those of Zhong Ling who had taken the first step. Zhong Ling saw that his luck was about to catch up with him, but he thought that Duan Yu was still behind him. He stopped and shouted, idiot, if you're standing there, I won't care about you. Here we are, Miss Zhong, don't worry, wait for me. Long Peng walked on the stone ladder to Jianghu Palace and saw a man and a woman in the nearby forest, so he walked over. Are you 2 disciples of the Infinite Sword Sect? Gan Guanghao and Guguanpei Jinglang were happily in love. After Long Peng made a sound, his liver and gallbladder trembled, and he stood up anxiously, extremely vigilant. We are disciples of the Infinite Sword Sect. What can I do for you? I would like to ask 2 people for a favor. What's up? I would like to invite 2 of you to take me to your sect to watch the Immortal dance sword with the infinite jade Bai. The 2 of them exchanged a glance and said, that boundless jade wall is a forbidden area of our sect. We apologize for not being able to fulfill your wishes. Forbidden area. Long Peng's sword eyebrows furrowed slightly, and he could only hear the sound of choking. The sword was unsheathed, that is the forbidden area of your Infinite Sword Sect, not someone else's. Do you mean you want to force yourself? Long Peng did not respond and leaped out, with a sword that swept out the cold forest sword. The 2 of them were already on guard and immediately welcomed them. Chang, Chang, after 2 crisp sounds, the long sword fell and 2 disciples of the Infinite Sword fell to the ground. Long Peng stood tall and pointed his sword at the door of the 2 of them. Both of you, can you take someone with you now? Gan Guanghao covered his chest, helped Guguanpei up, stood in front of her, and arched his hand, saying, who the hell is your excellency? And why? Buzzing, before he could finish speaking, the tip of his sword had reached Gan Guanghao's forehead. Lead the way. Gan Guanghao swallowed his saliva twice and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. Young Xia, calm down. I'll take you over now, he said. The long sword returned to its sheath, and Long Peng said calmly, it would have been better if this had happened earlier. I must have let someone take action. Lead the way. Yes, yes, what the young hero said is, let's lead the way now. The 2 of them shouted in unison, supporting each other as they walked ahead. Long Peng scanned the figure at the foot of the mountain and followed them calmly. Hey! Was that Mr. Lin just now? He seemed to be fighting with someone just now. Should we go help him? Zhong Ling teased the ferret and looked up. Idiot, you don't know martial arts. What can you do to help? Speaking of which, do we still need our help with their martial arts? This is also end of this chapter. Chapter 10. Langhuan Blessed Land. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Langhuan Blessed Land in the evening. Red clouds stretch endlessly, and the sky and earth are red in color. Xiao. Young Xia, this is the forbidden area of our Wuyang sword sect, Wuyang Jade Bai. Gan Guanghao stood on the mountaintop, his spirit tense, pointing towards a hanging Yinchuan in the distance, his fingertips trembling slightly. Can we go now? Not yet. Gan Guanghao's heart trembled as he pulled Gu Guanpei to his knees and said, please spare your life, please spare your life. Long Ping frowned and placed the end of his sword sheath on the acupoints of the two. Seeing Long Ping approaching Gu Guanpei, Gan Guanhao's face was filled with tears and he kept crying, Great Xia, if you want to kill me, just kill me. Let go of my junior sister, Great Xia. Stop making noise. After Long Ping knocked them unconscious with a hand knife, he sat cross-legged to recover his internal strength. The moon hangs on the branches, and the evening breeze is gentle. Long Ping stood at the top of the cliff, his clothes and hair swaying, and he used his lightness skills to lean against the cliff wall, rushing towards the pitch-black bottom of the cliff. Pup, when there were still 3 zhang left from the bottom of the cliff, Long Ping used the method of transforming energy and lightly floated to the ground. At the bottom of the cliff. At first glance, except for the lush camellias, there are all barren weeds without any human traces. Long Ping couldn't help but hold his breath, groping around and finally, after clearing several tall weeds, he saw the dark cave entrance. Ha! The Emperor does not disappoint those who have a heart. Long Ping breathed a sigh of relief, showed a smile, and took a big step inside. There are only a few scattered starlights inside the cave, which are very dim and cannot be seen by the eyes. Long Ping has been living in an ancient tomb since childhood, and his ability to see things in the dark is somewhat impressive, but he is not affected. Soon, he saw a jade carving placed deep inside, as well as a small pussy under the jade carving. Looking at the jade carving, Long Ping's sword eyebrows furrowed tightly, as if in doubt. This jade carving is 3 parts similar to my elder sister, 3 parts similar in appearance, and lifelike, not like a dead object. It is considered an excellent work, and the craftsmanship of Wuyazi is good. Speaking of which, I also miss my elder sister a bit, and I don't know how she and my grandmother live in the ancient tomb. Have those cow noses made things difficult for them? Long Ping sighed faintly and bent down to take out 2 scrolls from the cattail, as well as a white silk with delicate handwriting on it. Since you have kowtowed 1,000 times, you should offer me guidance and have no regrets for the rest of your life. I have killed all the disciples of the Shaoyao sect for you, and if there is a mistake, I will deeply regret it both in heaven and earth. I don't know who left behind these 2 martial arts skills. If I were to kill all the disciples of the Shaoyao sect, wouldn't it include myself? Long Ping muttered twice, took out the 2 scrolls, and recited them carefully. This Biming divine art is truly mysterious. Take 1 point, store 1 point, do not leak endlessly, accumulate thicker and thicker, like the great immersion of the Biming heavenly pool, can float thousands of miles of Kuan. I also don't know how talented the Zaya who created this method is. Long Ping sighed for a moment, then used his internal strength to shatter the scroll and immediately looked at the Lingbo micro steps. This set of lightness skills is slightly inferior to our ancient tomb sects, Yao Jiao Kong Bai, in long-distance attacks, but its small range of twists and turns is top-notch, and its characteristic of increasing internal power without decreasing in movement is even more divine. When Long Ping finished speaking and raised his hand to destroy it, he stopped again. Forget it, if Duan Yu still falls here, leave him away to save his life. Insert Lingbo Weibu back into the futon with the white silk, and Long Ping sits cross-legged, calm and focused. He is preparing to disperse his martial arts and then practice, Biming divine arts. In the quiet late night, a slight hiss sounded, and Longpeng's face gradually turned pale. Although self-dispersing is not extremely dangerous, it can still cause some damage to the body. The older you get, the deeper your internal strength is, and the greater the damage caused by this scattered skill. If the innate masters like Wujue scatter their skills, one is not afraid that they will directly eliminate the path of life and death. After all, no matter what. The internal power and true qi in the dantian are accumulated over countless days and nights, just like the hands, feet, and arms of a fellow person. To remove one's hands, feet, and arms without any damage. With a muffled snort, Longpeng slowly opened his eyes and felt his body empty and uncomfortable. This feeling is really a bit uncomfortable, he said. Longpeng gently rubbed the Tanzhong acupoint, paused for a moment, and then closed his eyes. This time, he silently recited the mnemonic of Biming divine skill in his heart, condensing the Biming true qi. This exercise. It was a day and a night, until his stomach began to moan and protest, and Longpeng finally stopped. Ha! Sensing the natural energy that was running on its own within the meridians, Longpeng smiled and took the remaining half of the meat cake to nibble on. I have to deliver Master Kuki's letter to Tianlong Temple without delay. Longpeng ate and drank his fill, wiped his mouth, and strode out of the cave. As soon as he looked up, he saw the full moon outside and couldn't help but pause in his footsteps. It seems like August 15th, and I don't know if Master Kuki is alive or dead now. Sigh. With a sigh, Longpeng leaned against the river at the bottom of the cliff and walked towards the outside. About an hour after Longpeng left, a young man in a blue shirt landed at the bottom of the cliff and curiously looked around. Longpeng walked along the river, out of the cliff bottom, and then circled around a small half of the Wuyang mountain until dawn before returning to the previous forest. Just where did my horse go? I remember it was tied quite firmly. Longpeng's expression was puzzled, but there was also a hint of anger. Thieves, don't let me catch you. That horse has been following Longpeng through mountains and rivers for 4 or 5 months, and has already developed feelings. The most important thing is he doesn't have the money to buy another horse. Longpeng, feeling somewhat depressed, took the map from his arms, identified the direction, and prepared to walk to Tianlong Temple. It's not far either, just over 300 miles, not far, really not far. Calm down, a good mood. Longpeng Yun picked up Lingbo micro steps and headed north along the trickling stream. Before long, he saw green smoke rising in the air ahead, which made him feel strange. He quickly walked over. I saw more than 20 people sitting in groups among a pile of rocks by the stream, surrounded by a bonfire. Above the bonfire was a soup pot, emitting green bubbles. Are these people from the Shenong gang refining poison? Longpeng hid in the bushes and observed carefully. After seeing a Yunnan horse eating grass, his eyebrows furrowed uncontrollably. Why is this horse so familiar? Where are the mice hiding their heads and tails? Hurry up and get out. In the midst of the crowd, the thin old man sitting on the high rock suddenly opened his eyes, revealing a fierce light, waving his sleeve and robe. Xiao, the sound of breaking through the air exploded, and several pale green poison extracting hidden weapons were killed. Longpeng was slightly surprised and didn't expect that Xikong Xian's ear power was so good. He immediately dodged on his side. What person? As soon as Longpeng left the bushes, the disciples of the Shenong sect stood up together and drew out their silver weapons to face Longpeng. End of this chapter.